Okay, my friends, it's over the top today. Out of control. My mind is blown to the maximum. Why, you ask? And thank you for asking. Because of this right here. When I saw this, I almost fell over. I'm doing a thing today on how the pyramids were built. And I pretty much understand how they were built, and I know what they were built out of, and it's nothing like you think. And then I came across this picture. So I figured I'm going to dig around and get some more pictures. I got a ton of them, but I figured, I got a few more. And boom, this hits me. I just freaked out. You see these little bumps here? Now, this is from a place called Igor Bondarenko. Follow him if you'd like. And this is about the Grand Pyramid of Cheops in the Giza Plateau, Cairo, Egypt. Now, what are we looking at right there? Look very carefully. That is the coating on the surface of the outside of the pyramid to sort of finish it off. Well, what are these little bumps? What are these little bumps? I know what they are, and you do too. If you've been paying attention whatsoever, those are the bumps that are on the walls down in Peru and Bolivia and all those places. And guess what? I know what they're made out of. This is, oh my God, this is just too much. Now, what do I have here? I have a pyramid block. This right here. You see that? That's where the blood came up. And if I put a little water on there, which I am going to do right now, you'll see the blood stain. You see it? Blood changes very, very quickly. That whole thing right there, that center, is where the blood came up to service this muscle tissue. And this died laying in this position, down like that. And I don't know if you can see that or not. That's not very visible. Hold on. That maybe can give you a little better shot of the difference between the blood. The blood runs down. The blood ran down to here. Hold on, maybe this will help. You really got to play around with lights when you want to see details. That might help a lot. But this is where the blood was, and that serviced this whole thing. And it died laying down like this, so the blood ran down to the bottom. And that's why you see that stain down there. And the top is basically a different sort of stone because it doesn't have the iron oxides, which is the hematite iron up here. And down here it's pretty well saturated with it. Now, if it died straight up in the air like this, it would be, you know, that would be the flat top you'd see, and that's it. And the blood would sort of, you wouldn't really see much, but you'd see maybe a little hole here or there. Because there's blood vessels that have to service all the tissues. Now, I have the microscope going, and this is feldspar. You see this stuff is feldspar? All the way around. And all feldspar is collagen that has been turned into aluminum silicates. That's it. And everything, basically everything, is covered with collagen. Even my goose here, Caesar, he's covered with collagen. Even his feathers, that's all collagen. And when it's something in that collagen chemistry that when it heated up in the silicates, in the hot water flood that happened, when the earth was flooded by almost being hit by Venus, everything died and it's flat, one side is flat. Some of them, you know, this is the nature of this to be blocky. It doesn't have to be, see how it's like not perfectly blocky? It's not a perfect square. And the same thing with the ones in the, the pyramids. They're not perfect squares either. There's a lot of different variety of sizes in there, you see it? Just take your time and look at things. Now, this is what blew my mind. That's the mind blower. I'm going to show you what that is. That's biology. The whole thing is biology, but that I can show you specifically the biology. See that right there? This is one of the bricks coming up out of there. That's where the blood comes out. You see all the little holes in the top of those bricks, blocks. Well, that's basically the same as this. You see this one here? Totally different. Why is it black? And why are these holes here instead of something filling them? How did that happen? I can tell you how it happened. These are arteries. That pumped red blood, and that's the vein. Veins clamp off and they turn black because it's expended blood. It only has 2 oxygens. The red blood, which this one here had red blood in it, has 3 oxygens. That's why it's red. So this is where blood ran through here. Now, I believe this was muscle. Now, it could have been tendon. I don't think so. I think it's muscle. And these blocks are what muscle sarcomeres look like. And I'll show you an electron microscope. I mean, these creatures were just so far beyond belief that they're beyond belief. Now, these blocks are not just perfect. And there was slurpees in between. That means small leucine-rich proteins, which will, that's why these faces are opened up in here and there, because it's like a slippery, slimy synovial fluid, basically, because all of those fibers have to move when you were alive against each other. Everything's moving against each other, sliding back and forth. So you have to have that synovial stuff. And it is slippery. I don't know if you can see this here. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. That's what synovial joint is right there. That's the coefficient of friction. Extremely fluid. Like a zillion times more slippery than Teflon on Teflon. That's inside your body. You have to keep moving or you'll stiffen up. That's just another little tidbit of knowledge for you. Now, because that stuff will glue up on you. Trust me, I know, because I worked with an autopsy guy, and he says when he cuts the people open, he knows if somebody was sore and stiff all the time because he has to actually cut that stuff with a knife. He says some people you could just move your fingers and all that slurpy stuff will just move because they're just nice and free and they float. Some people it's just stiff like a rock. He has to cut it. All right, enough of that. Now, I'm not sure, to be perfectly honest with you, because I don't even know what kind of creature it was. It might have had a dragon scale like this. Maybe it was one of these it started with. Because these have all kinds of layers, too. You see all the layers there? Now, are they like this? I don't know. Maybe it was a dragon scale. It looks like a pyramid to me. So we don't know. And I think this is a dragon scale. I know it has blood coming out of it. I've tested it, actually. It has the catalase test. Here is one spot. And there's another one, so I forget where it is. But that's the main one right there. Oh, there it is right there. And they have blood running through them. And they've just found a big cavity inside the Great Pyramid, unexplained. And that was where there was a pocket of blood, I'm almost certain. Okay, remember this. Remember the block I showed you, and the black and the red, or well, it's drained out. Artery just drains out. They're very, very fluid. Now, I'm going to show you some anatomical shots, and this is just an introduction because I want to go through this top to bottom, and it's going to take an extended amount of time. So this is what I say was a natural formation from a biological creature that died on the spot and was deconstructed to create the pyramids. Okay, one more time, look at this closely. Look at those bumps. These bumps on these like molded sort of slabs. Now look at this, is what is down in the South America on their walls. Those are the bumps. Same bumps. Well, why do they have those bumps? And why are these moldy like that? Same thing you just saw a second ago right here. It's the exact same thing. This is the facing on the pyramids. Now, this is cut from a place on a creature's body that is called a tendon mat. And these tendon mats have straps that attach into them. And that strap comes running out through these. I'm going to show you that. And when they cut them off, they just sort of mold them together. They sort of pinch off. I'll show you. All right, here's where those bumps come from. These mats are tendon mats. You see how this is exactly the same material? And they just break off these bumps right here. That strap goes through a hole in that tendon down to a ball. You see this hole? The tendon strap runs right down through to that ball. That ball should be stuck in that hole, in a bone or somewhere, so it anchors. Now what does the anchor do? The ball stays there, and the strap pulls against muscles and so forth. So the strap can glide back and forth, very slippery, very gooey, and very smooth. And this is tough as can be, and this is just unbelievably tough. And it normally anchors below. What they did was they cut these mats. And I know how they did it too. They had machines. I can show you that too. And they cut these mats, and then they moved them and made the walls. And they had to be wet when they did, because they all sunk in together. Now this is one of these tendon balls right here. Same thing as that. All right, and it would come through, and there was another one gliding right on the top of it. And they would glide together, just like these go like this. It just happened, it must have been laying like this or whatever. But you can see the core around there, the rind, and the black in the center. That's that's the really strappy stuff. Anyway, this is what they did, and that's how they cut these tabs, and that's why these bumps stick out. Now, I actually found a wall that looks like it was a wall that they used to test to how they were going to handle these bumps. And they ended up handling them very elegantly. Some of them are just fabulous. You know, before I show you that, we have so much new stuff here about our ancient past and history. New species. Obviously, giants, mine are DNA tested, and they're just absolutely huge. I have one that just the fingertip alone is 3 feet long, still has the fingerprints on it. And it was DNA tested. So this is time to really just change the way we look at things. Just start to look at it and think about it. That's all. I'm not asking you to go jump off a cliff or something, but some people might. This is deep. This is deep stuff. And if we don't really know our past, how can you judge anything? How can you make any real decisions about anything, especially about your eternity? And I'm going to tell you something right now. All of the stuff I've read, virtually all of it, from Apollodorus and Hesiod and Ovid and all of them, the original writers. And even Hesiod was supposedly instructed to write what he wrote by the daughters of Zeus, which are called the Muses. And he was supposed to be the god in charge at that time. And from all I can understand, it appears that that's the case. It appears that's the case. And his natural state is Jupiter. He's Zeus and he is Jupiter. But all of these gods could change to become anything they wanted to become. And don't tell me this is silly, because if you don't do the research, you have no authority to speak on it. If you don't follow what I'm showing you, then you're just irrelevant. You have to look at the evidence, and this is what's not happening by literally everybody. Even the people that go out and walk around on these sites, and there's a few people on the internet, that's what they do. They travel around and they show all these things. They have no explanations for any of them. I guess that's what builds their audience. I don't know. But I try to explain things, and I have explained it, and I showed you what this is. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no question about this mat, these bumps, and these balls that are all over the world. They're everywhere. These balls are everywhere. They don't understand those either. Those are the tendon balls. And I'm telling you, you have, in your body, you have hundreds of thousands of these. Some of them are bigger than others. Some of them are just as tiny can be. And these balls are everywhere in your body. See, this is Fuerte de Sempiata, Bolivia. They had equipment here. It was wet when they did this. They had a machine here. They had tank treads on it and tire treads or whatever. It came up here, and then they cut these slabs, and they moved those slabs down to the walls. And that's how they created those walls. And that's why they stuck together so nicely. They were really taking them out when they were kind of gooey. And they popped them up there, and then they just dried up. See, this is it right here. They were using these machines, cutting them, and taking these chunks of this wet flesh, because this was wet when they were here. No question, it sunk in. They were taking these wet stuff and bringing them down here, and they sunk in. And they had some of them with the little tabs. This one here still had a bone in it, and it's rotting away. So they didn't do a perfect job in some places, but some places were spectacular. All right, I'm going to probably leave it at this for today, because this is going to go for a very long time. I'm going to show evidence that can't be refuted. This is the bumps that were on these tendon slabs. And they are the same bumps that you see right there. They're the same bumps and the same sort of little tendon slabs. So you have them in Egypt, you have them in Peru, you have them in Bolivia, all over down there. So they were, I don't know if they're using the same equipment to do this job. I don't see why I would think anything different. They were using it down in these other areas. And they had actual equipment driving. You saw it driving up, and they were cutting slabs out. And they transferred them down to make these walls. And they were wet when they put them in, so they stayed together well. This is an area where they used some very good quality, and so it was probably in a very upper class neighborhood. And some of the stuff that they did was just artwork, unbelievably beautiful artwork. It depended who was doing it, I suppose. It's just like anything else. Okay, so the next video will be the total package. We're going to go from Peru and Bolivia and all those areas down there. We're going to go to Petra. We're going to go to the pyramids, all the biology, all the anatomy, and we're going to see how the pyramids were constructed. I showed you how these walls apparently were made. And then we're going to go over and make sure that it makes sense. And what are these little blocks here? How big were these creatures that I'm talking about? You know how big they were. You know how big they were. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and some thousands of miles long. So the anatomy is proportional, basically. That's why we're seeing these big blocks of muscle, where like tendons were. These are muscle sarcomeres, and that is an artery, which happens to be Petra now. So we're going to go over all of this stuff and the muscles. This is right above Petra's. It's built into a pile of muscle and blood. Petra's nothing but a blood artery. And I have all the stuff here in myself in my shop. This is a bone, and this is where the muscle came out over here, and all the. I got all this stuff. I got everything to prove what I'm saying, and all of the chemistry, and all the anatomy, and all the sarcomeres, and all the little blocks, and the fascia. I can show everything I'm talking about. So that, and I can show you even in the ancient maps. They thought they built them on top of some ancient trees or something, because they were sticking up originally, and they chopped them down. This is a map from I don't know where, but it's. I mean, I know where it is. It's the pyramids, and it's from Cairo, ancient Cairo, I guess. Now, again, this is going to be a little bit of a sludge through this whole thing, but I'm going to explain these kind of anomalies and this new thing they just found. You know what? I should just show you a little bit of that first, and then I'm going to leave it at this for today because the rest is going to be very extended. But you see all these little blocks? I don't think people built them and put them up there. I believe this was deconstructed from piles coming almost straight up. And I think I can tell you exactly why they have these chambers and that they have this little buttress thing in there. Well, who would do that? Why would they do that? I can tell you why they do it. All right, we're going to be looking at all these different chambers, and this they call this an escape or service shaft. No, it isn't. It's another place is called a well. It's a blood vessel that runs down. These different shafts are, as far as I'm concerned, probably arteries. This is up coming down through the center, and that I'm sure is a main artery. And you can see from the top that black spot is the vein coming back up. So that was probably the main feed for that region anyway. There might have been other ones over here. I don't know. But when you see that, and then you see this grand gallery, it was probably another artery feeding back into this area. It depends on what the creature was. I have no idea. But there's several of them in a row there. So I would assume it was more than one creature of the same creature. Either more than one creature or the same creature having, like I say, maybe it had dragon scales. Maybe these were dragon scales. I have no idea. At this point, I am not sure what to think, but I can tell you what I do think and what I do know is this spot right here that I showed you before has the, wherever I showed you from, I can't remember where it was now, but it has the actual, those bumpy wall on the bottom, which is the tendon. I showed you that, I know very clearly. So the rest I believe I can also prove is biological, and all these blocks are from some biology. All right, and again, these are the little bumps that were on the bottom of that pyramid. So they were cutting slabs over there too, using the same high-tech equipment, I'm pretty sure. All right, apparently they all had the same equipment and they were cutting the same stuff. And this was the end result. So what we're going to patch together here is the history of the flood, because this is all products of the flood, and all my stuff is products of the flood. And Yale University, Derek Briggs, agrees now with my research that I presented him years before he eventually put a paper out about it, that there was a worldwide flood of heavy amounts of silicates, very quick, rapid inundation of the world, one layer or all worldwide, completely around the world, which encapsulated and preserved soft body creatures like my buddy here, Caesar. All right, even his feathers, Caesar Augustus. Now, they don't understand it at Yale because they haven't studied it like I have. This was done from a hot water flood. Velikovsky has all the details in his books. All right, if you want to listen to Emanuel Velikovsky, it was called Worlds in Collision, and the academics hated him, and they made him take that book off the bookshelves after being on the #1 on the bookshelf for 11 weeks in a row. The academics went to the publisher, said, if you don't take it off the bookshelves, we'll never buy another book from you. Off it went. So, truth matters not. It's time for us to present the truth and examine the truth. I don't care what you take away from it. That's up to you, because this opens up a lot of doors. Door 1, 2, 3 through 10,000. You can check every door you want. I'm looking through every door. I don't care what they are, and it doesn't care. I don't care who wrote it. Right? That matters not to me. I draw on the preponderance of evidence. Je comprends? That means, do you understand? The preponderance of evidence. So I can't say this guy wrote that book and that's the only book you can read. You read any other book, you're an idiot. You're a demon. You know, that's the kind of stuff I get all the time. Don't look at that, don't look at that, don't look at that. No, you look at everything. Then you decide. Now, what you decide, that's up to you. All right? I love you all. Next one is going to be so deep, you know, you're going to need something to get out of the swamp, because if we're going in as far as you can go. And this is about our history. Now, this is not silly. This is not just spectacular, exciting, but it will be. But I'm going to tell you what, it could also be eternally important. And we're going to be talking about the eternal text too. There was text written about everything, about how you have to conduct your life if you want to be happy in your next existence. And from what I can see right now, there's a possibility that you will just end and evaporate and it's nothing to you ever again. You're not even in existence whatsoever. However, I don't believe that's the case. From what I can see and from what was written, there is an eternal soul. And that eternal soul is continuously, throughout eternity, trying to upgrade, or should be trying to upgrade. When you don't try to upgrade, you don't seek, you don't learn, your eyes are closed, your ears are closed, you just, you know, you're really inconsequential to the universe. Now, if you seek, you will find, and you will be disturbed, and you will marvel. Those aren't my words. Those are the words of Jesus Christ. And I believe now he was who he said he was. The advertising was authentic as far as I can understand. All right, so that's a whole nother project. We got a lot of work to do. So let's get started. I love you all. Okay, I'm telling you, this is just hard to understand or believe, and I don't have all the answers how these creatures could have been so huge and living on this planet the way it is now. Absolutely, I can't believe that's true. So the planet was either a huge rotating disk of matter that's eventually congealed. That's possible. Or they come from outer space. That's possible. I have no idea. Something was different. Now, obviously, the Earth is the size it is now. So the people that are talking about flat Earth, maybe long ago, yeah, I can go along with that, but not now. Now, this is what this thing is right here. You see that ball? That's exactly what you had. And here's other ones. There was other ones that slid alongside of it. There was a ball attached to this one, just like this ball. All right, and that would have been locked into something. Now, this is exactly what you see at Arches National Park in Utah. All right, I'm going to leave it at this because this will, if you can't see what I'm talking about, I don't know how I can help you. This is the tendon ball right there. That's that ball locked in to some flesh that would have been here, let's say. And it had a big long strap. This is all bundled up now because it's just snapped off. Once they snap off, they just whoop. That would go zip just like this because it's a tendon. It's got tension. It's got spring to it. When tendons collapse, they just whoop. It's called a wrinkle zone. They just squish right in. So this ball is this ball. All right, very tough. And the strap is gooey, and it just all glued together down here. Now, again, they come in bundles. You see all these balls? You see this ball right here? It's a whole nother ball. It has nothing to do with this one. This one was locked into the flesh or whatever it was locked into, bone that eroded away, and these are much tougher than the things that they're locked into. All right, there's other ones over here too. You see them out here? They're going to be all over the place because you don't have just one or two or three or five or 10 or 20. You have hundreds, maybe thousands in a certain area to anchor your body together. Look, here's the stalk of the other one that broke away right here. They have a central core that comes down, and this one I'm almost positive would have anchored into this one right here. That's the take I would have. This one came right up and anchored in sideways, just like mine had two of them, and if it laid sideways, one would lay on the other one, just exactly the way mine had. Mine ended up going like this, sideways. Now this one's sitting straight up. And this part is still attached way up there. This one broke off, just like this one broke off, and of course it rolled it away. Anyway, I think I present a pretty good case for how big they are, or were. And even, like I say, Yale has agreed that there was a worldwide flood, hot water. Well, I don't know if they talk about hot water. They don't know what happened. But they snuck in the fact that there was the Great Flood, just exactly like Noah said. And this is by Derek Briggs, who I presented all my research to over 10 years ago, completely dismissed it, and now they wrote this paper and sort of hid it in the background that says there was exceptional preservation of soft body creatures promoted by silica-rich oceans in an extremely rapid, heavy precipitation, which is water, of silica cements, which is the effluence of body tissues, and it facilitated the high silica saturated state of the oceans, which created all of these perfectly preserved creatures. So he's saying exactly what I said. Now this is worldwide, not just in one spot, worldwide. The only possibility is a complete flood of the world. It was worldwide, you see? And then they're trying to understand it. They have no explanation for it. They just say that they were preserved in sandstone casts. Well, mostly it was mud. That's why I call them mud fossils. Its early silification confirms this layer of fossil assemblages can provide an accurate window into life on the seafloor. No, it wasn't on the seafloor. It was from the flood, and then everything drained back into the oceans and so forth. And it says right here, it was worldwide. How the fossils are preserved remains controversial. I know exactly how they're preserved. I've showed it 100 times, 1,000 times probably. So Yale agrees right now exactly what the Bible says. Yale is now gone into Bible mode. All right, they were totally against this, but now they realize they were wrong. Yale University, New Haven, Connecticut, Derek Briggs realizes he was wrong. And he has published this paper about soft body creatures all over the world, which I had presented to him years earlier, with DNA evidence, CAT scans, everything, which they rejected. And now they realize they're wrong. Slipped it under this rug about the Great Flood and about our ancient history. These are the people we rely on to tell us the truth about our ancient history. You won't get it there. That's what I found. There is no appetite for looking into any of this stuff. It's like I say, I presented all my evidence, even the DNA CAT scans, they wouldn't look at it. So I see no evidence of anybody engaging at Yale or any other university, which is, it's an indictment on their mindset. They just won't allow discussion on what they won't allow discussion on. And they are in a position of power. Nobody can stand up to them. If you want to stand up to them as a professor, you just flunked your course. And Velikovsky stood up to him as an academic amongst them and was destroyed. I stand up against him. I don't care. You can't destroy me because I'm already destroyed. You can't destroy what is not. All right, if you want to be in amongst them and be accepted and be a big shot, well, you're going to have to stay away from me. And that's what's happened. They all stay away from me because they know if they get involved with me, they're done. As a matter of fact, I had a real big shot not long ago. Who's a good friend? And I'm not going to mention his name. And I said, would you be upset if I said that you agree with, I forget what it was, but, he did. He agreed with it. And his response to me was, what do you want to do, destroy my life? And so obviously, no, he's not going to agree openly. Because once you do, you're a target. I'm telling you, everybody that has agreed with me got slammed. And they all contacted me, and they said they lost a lot of friends, they lost everything. Because people they just hate this because it goes against what they have been indoctrinated to believe by academia. And if you don't believe, the first thing I hear from literally every single college student that I present this to is this peer reviewed? And I say, no, they won't even look at it. Well, so obviously because you're an idiot. And then they literally won't look at it. And these are college students. They're supposed to be investigating what life is all about. And they're told, you read the book, you repeat what you're told to say, and then you're educated. If you go looking on your own, we're going to destroy your life. Basically, it boils down to that. Simple as that at this point right now. And that's every university right across the board. I see them starting to turn a corner, a little taste. It's just like this right here. But that goes back to 2016. That's 6, 7 years ago. And I was presenting this to him 10, 12 years ago. Derek Briggs. This is the guy right here, Derek Briggs. And that's why I went to him, because he's right down the road from me, literally 20 miles away. And he's supposed to be the top one in the field. And if he's top in the field, boy, I'll tell you, that field has got a lot of issues. Okay, mes amis, I am going to go through this very deeply in the next video, very deeply. But you can see right here, tendons have a tendency to change as they go into changing into the muscle, which is here. They call these abrupt transitions. And as they progress, they become less and less mineralized. However, they still have this slurpee. You see the slurpee in between them? All right, you see that stuff? That has to be nice and fluid. This is the stuff I talked about. You see it? That has to be nice and fluid so these tendons can move alongside of each other and still stay sealed. This is supposed to be a tight junction. No stuff is supposed to get through there. Of course, that's inside your body, but all the fluids in your body are supposed to be separated from your internal good body parts by a membrane. The membrane would coat this and seal all the way around the whole thing. So nothing can get in unless the membrane wants to let it in, and this goes through what they call ion channels. And that's regulated and says, you can come in, you can't come in. You can go out, you can't go out. That's the way it works. That's what's called a membrane. It's a bilipid membrane. I can explain all of this stuff, all of the chemistry, all the biology, all of the anatomy, all of the geology, all of the ancient texts. I've really pretty well studied most of this, as deep as anybody that I know of. And if somebody wants to confront me and say, oh, Roger, you don't understand this, you don't understand that, well, let's talk. But I can tell you what, this is nothing but fascia. See all these little white spots in here? That's the rubbery stuff that coats that's like from your membranes. And I have this on all my stuff here. And I have my microscope cooking here, and I'll be showing some membranes. And then we're going to get deep, deep, deep into what this is as far as the association between biology and these stones. This is not just an accident this happened this way. This is a shoulder or something. And this is going out to reach out to a muscle that pulls back and forth. But they always have a little chunk of tendon. And I guess I'm getting more than I wanted to go into this, but let me just show you that so that I can verify what I'm saying with the little chunk of tendon. Where's my little chunk of tendon? Little chunk of tendon, where are you? I don't think I have my little chunk of tendon. Oh, there it is. You see this? This is basically the same thing. You have a bone here. Then you have a little chunk of tendon. Then you have muscle, which is very red and starts to get really flexible. Right up here is almost the same sort of thing you saw there. They actually wrap. You see that? That wraps right around. This fiber wraps right around into this tendon, which you see how this is brown, there's no blood in it basically, it's almost bloodless. This starts to take on blood because you're getting into the muscle. And this is the source of really a ton of red blood to service that, because muscle takes a ton of red blood. And these are really literally arteries, and this whole thing was saturated and filled with blood to service this. That's why it's nice and pink here. Back here, tendon. So I hope that clears up the tendon issue. Okay, in the next video we're going to be doing the Fair Use Act. I'm going to be showing what this, and I haven't looked at this yet. It's talking about hidden chambers in the Great Pyramid as big as a plane, confirmed by new scans in Egypt. Now this goes back 3 years ago, so they know about this. And these are cavities and voids, and I think I can fully understand what they are, and I can show them in the mud fossils as well. Because, well, let's go into that in the next video. Alright, I love you all. Stay tuned. We're going to go into the land of reality, which is not the land that you live in currently. Alright, so stay tuned. Alright, once again, I love you.